Good afternoon in the US of A, and good night here in Sicily on the Mediterranean coast. My name is JB. Welcome to the Militant Negro YouTube channel, and I am the Militant Negro. Today I want to talk to you about an interesting case out of Massachusetts. A woman, Maria Daly, who happens to be a Massachusetts police officer's wife, faked a robbery, spray painted the letters BLM, which stands for Black Lives Matter, on the side of her home, then turned around and blamed Black Lives Matter supporters for breaking into her home, robbing her of $10,000 worth of jewelry, wrote social media that she woke up and saw this person standing over her, and they had all this hatred for her for no reason, and they spray painted her home referring to the Black Lives Matter graffiti. Police in Millbury thought that it was a hoax from the very beginning. There's a guy there who's a police chief named Daniel Daly. I believe I'm saying that right. There was no evidence that her husband was involved, so he won't face charges, but they're charging her with a plethora of things. This is just ridiculous. I don't really know what to say about it. Kind of like I'm at a loss for words. I mean, what do you say about somebody who does that? Who has such racial hatred for people she probably does not even know? That she would fake a robbery, spray paint her home, deface her own property with Black Lives Matter graffiti, then file a police report, then go on social media to exploit her evil doings to the entire planet. Because, I mean, social media is worldwide. What drives a person to do something of this magnitude of ignorance and evil hatred? I just don't get it. I mean, she put herself at risk for going to prison, although she will probably get a very short probationary period in any kind of facility because she's Caucasian, number one. Number two, she's a cop's wife. So not very much is going to happen to her. But, you know, how do you put yourself at risk? Because she may get a sympathetic judge who's sympathetic to Black Lives Matter and people of color and really hard line on crime. So she might get some time behind bars. But how do you put yourself at risk? Put the career of your husband at risk, because this could do real damage to his career as a law enforcement officer. So, you know, how do you do all that? We came to the conclusion that it was all fabricated. There was no intruder. There was no burglary. After she filed this police report on October 17th, she told friends on social media about the alleged burglary. She said, and I quote, "We woke up to not only our house being robbed while we were sleeping, but to see that hatred for no reason had been spray painted on our wall." I don't know, man. Daly has been charged with filing a false police report, misleading a police investigation. Now, the chief has stated a number of times that there is no evidence that her husband had anything to do with this, that he was aware of what happened, or that he had any kind of hand in it. That would be Daniel Daly, the Massachusetts cop and husband of Maria Daly, who made up this entire thing. It all brings me back to the days when they had this couple I don't know if it was Boston or New York or Massachusetts. I can't really recall, but there was this woman. Maybe it wasn't a couple. Maybe it was just this woman who said she was carjacked by an African American, is what she called him. Yeah, this is going back some years. I don't know the specifics of that story, and I don't know why she did it, but she said an African American male carjacked her. After hunting and profiling a lot of African American males in that city where this happened, it finally was discovered that she was lying and had made the entire thing up out of thin air. I'm just not understanding why people do this. I think back to Tamir Rice in the park, okay? That is connected to this because it's the same mentality. Caucasian people call the police and blame somebody of color, a person of color. They blame them for a crime being committed against them, which sets off the law enforcement in that area on a witch hunt, a racially profiled manhunt for somebody who doesn't exist. But in the aftermath of that lie by that Caucasian person, a lot of innocent people of color are subject to harassment, arrest, bodily harm, maybe even death. Tamir Rice in the park playing with a toy gun, and some motherfucker in that park called the cops, dialed 911 and said there's an adult black person in this park with a weapon. That was a lie. And the person who placed that 911 call knew it was a lie. Because no matter how you look at Tamir Rice, he doesn't look like an adult male. Okay? He had the body of a child. And when you watch the video that was eventually released of him moments before the cops arrived and killed him, he was playing in that park exactly like a child. So everybody involved in this, even the cops who pulled up and shot him in 3 seconds after arriving, could see that this was a little boy. Now, if a little boy had a real live weapon in his hands and he were white, Caucasian, European, you wouldn't shoot him. You would approach him as cautious as possible per your training as a law enforcement officer and inquire what's going on. Try to talk to him. Try to distract him. Instead, little Tamir Rice, 12 years old, gunned down within 3 seconds of these KKK cops getting out of their cruiser. All because some Caucasian person called them and lied about what was going on. Let's move on to the cat in Ohio in the Walmart. And I can't think of his name right now, and that bugs me. But he was in Walmart in the toy gun section. Okay? Toy gun section. And these son of a guns came in and shot him dead because somebody in Walmart called 911 and said there's a black man walking around in Walmart with an automatic weapon pointing it at people. Now the video surveillance cameras showed this gentleman walking around Walmart with the gun slung over his back, not pointing it at anybody, not threatening anybody, not even communicating with anybody. And let's not forget that Ohio is a carry state, an open carry state, a state where people walk around all types of businesses with automatic weapons strung over their shoulders and holstered pistols on their hips. I've seen this. Yet still, the cops ran in, busted a move, came in like gangbusters on this black gentleman who, again, I can't think of his name, and shot him. This is all on surveillance video, Walmart video. So we have to understand that there are a lot of people of the Caucasian persuasion who lie to law enforcement about what is going on when a crime is supposedly, allegedly committed by a person of color. And I'm not blaming law enforcement because it's pretty hard to get a 911 call and not give it your utmost attention, caution, and try to find out what's going on. And you know, cops are scared. They're fearful. Some of them are cowards, some are not. But a lot of times they go into a situation on edge, full of adrenaline, and scared. So when they're called to a situation and told by the 911 operator, 911 operators don't get the truth, they get what they're told. So when the 911 operator tells, she dispatches a call to a cop in the street, she's telling them what she's been told. And there are just too many instances of callers to 911 telling a lie to get somebody killed who is a person of color. They said the same thing about this cat who was standing in front of the store, I believe, in Missouri, maybe a suburb of St. Louis. He had a knife, a penknife. Somebody called 911 and said the man had a weapon and was threatening people going in and out of the convenience store. Cops rolled up on him, bang, bang, he's dead. They maybe had a 30-second conversation with this man before they killed him. And yes, he was a Negro. This happened shortly after the time, I believe, that Michael Brown was executed in the street. But getting back to Maria Daly, she blames Black Lives Matter for graffiti, spraying her home, breaking in and stealing 10 grand in jewelry. And the cops bought this for about 5 seconds. I have to give credit to those Massachusetts police officers and the investigators. They used their brains. They didn't let their judgment and the motives for the investigation become clouded by their racism and hatred of people of color. They did their jobs. But that's not the way it is all the time. You know, it just bugs me that we have this shit happening almost on a daily basis where somebody is accosted, assaulted, detained by the police because some Caucasian person said a person of color did X, Y, Z. And yes, the world is watching what goes on in the United Slave States of America. They're watching this. People are leaving USA. I did. I packed my shit up after I voted in September and left the United States because it's dangerous. And I know myself. I have a temper and I don't like to be fucked with. And when it's obvious to me that somebody is fucking with me, I do some fucking back. This is a problem in America that needs to be addressed. Racism and the fallout from racists. Racist people don't just infect themselves. There's a tendency for a racist person to infect those around them, to infect their environment. This is something that needs to be erased, disposed of. America needs to wake up and deal with its racism problem. It needs to acknowledge that there is a problem. I mean, how do you deal with somebody calling the police on you and saying, this Negro, this African American, this black person did this to me? And then the cops roll up on any person of color in the vicinity who, quote unquote, fits the description. And from that forward is harassment. It's police brutality in a lot of instances. Because in the eyes of law enforcement, and especially racist, Caucasian, Europeans, all of us look alike. That is true. We're all wearing our pants sagging. We all got dreadlocks. cornrows. We're all wearing hoodies. You know, that's the classic line of bullshit when describing a person of color who is claimed to be an assailant or a perpetrator. I've seen many scenes on the street in Chicago and other major cities where young people of color are lined up against a wall in a neighborhood, and the crimes unit or the gangs unit have them searched by their opponents in this bullshit law enforcement maneuver. And they're just taking pictures of their tattoos, taking pictures of their faces, adding them to a crime book, a gang catalog. It's just racial profiling. This woman, Maria Daly, calling the police and blaming Black Lives Movement is racial profiling. That's all that was. There isn't an outcry about this. There isn't a whole lot about this in the American media. This woman lying on a political and civil rights organization. That's just like somebody Negro or Mexican or Chinese waking up one day and telling the world and the police department and social media that Amnesty International broke in their house, stole their money, and wrote Amnesty International on the side of the house. That's how stupid that is. Who would believe that? Who would buy into that? America is in trouble. We are in deep, deep trouble. I don't have any solutions to how we get out of this shithole. Slavery, racism, hatred, oppression, these things have been going on for centuries. This country was built and founded on those principles of racism and oppression, slavery, manipulation, genocide of those who are different than the Caucasian Europeans, wiping out entire cultures, putting people in prison and calling it a crime bill, shifting billions of dollars of money into building prisons, keeping them full of people of color. I make these videos, and I don't know if there's ever been a video that I've made, maybe one or two, that hasn't had some connection to racism. I've taken some subject matter from everyday current events in the news, and it all has a lot to do with racism, police brutality, just downright mistreatment of human beings. And when do we wake up? When do we as human beings say we've had enough? When do we decide we're not going to perpetrate racism anymore? We're not going to profit from racism. Barack Obama was elected president in 2008, and gun sales across the nation skyrocketed. And most people want to tell you, well, they thought Obama was going to go into office, move into the Oval Office in the White House, and stop people from being able to get weapons, put a moratorium on gun licenses, stop the sale of automatic weapons. That was a lie. The real reason gun sales tripled when Obama became president was because they wanted to arm themselves against the uprising they figured was going to follow his inauguration ceremony. Yes, I know, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. They figured that once a Negro, mixed race, person of color was sworn into office as president, he would then do whatever it took to start an uprising vis-a-vis Nat Turner and the slave revolts of Birth of a Nation. That's what they thought in their heads, their sick mind. So everybody went out and loaded up on weapons, ammunition. We're going to be ready for this. It's the end days. I'm just saying people need to wake up. You need to stop being racist. Educate yourself. Stop educating your children on how to be racist. Babies are born from the womb as infants, no recognition of skin color. Not a racist bone in their body. Their DNA doesn't contain racism. Parents put it there. Society puts it there. Peer pressure puts it there. You form a clean slate of a child and make it a racist. This has to stop. Stop educating your kids on how to be hateful and prejudiced and racist. Let them have the love that they come out of the womb with, and let that continue. We're responsible for racism. It's not something that you are born with. Have a good day, people. Namaste.